Welcome back to the program. The first thing that I want to say tonight is we are so lucky. We dodged such a bullet. It's not even a bullet, it's like a cannon, it's a drone. Hell, it's a nuclear strike, okay? Because as I said during the election, it wasn't Heels Up Headboard Harris that we had to worry about, it was Tim Walz. And I said that Tim Walz was so extreme and so radical, but he was a very effective governor. He was an effective governor because he was corrupt. He was an effective governor because he's embezzling money, because he's money laundering, because he's looking the other way while the people of his state, the taxpayers, are getting fleeced billions and billions of dollars. So, as I said during the election, it would have been the same as George W. Bush, where George W. Bush was not the powerful president that people thought he was. It was Dick Cheney behind the scenes running the entire White House. So Tim Walz would have been doing the same thing. And just think for 1 second, if God forbid they were in power, we wouldn't be hearing about these Somali sewer rats and this scandal. It would have been buried, completely buried. And worse, think about all the things that we have found out because they're not in power. The auto pen scandal, the criminal conspiracy, all the mortgage fraud, all of these things. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Josh, where are the convictions and the indictments? I get it. I understand that. But let's also look at the fact that if, God forbid, these people won, how bad we would be right now in this country. So we have to be thankful for the fact that President Trump did indeed win, and he's doing things, and he's fighting the system, and the system's fighting back against him, but he's fighting the system, and he's continuing to win. And yes, it's slow, it's methodical, it's painful sometimes to watch and live through, but we are moving in the right direction. And thank God we are, because if Tampon Timmy was in control, who knows how bad we'd be right now. So I wanted to start with that. Now, the other thing is this. Back on October 1st of 2025, I went to X and I posted this. At Real Donald Trump, your next target to send ICE and the National Guard to should be, quote, Little Mogadishu, the Somali section of Minnesota. That was said on October 1st of 2025. Here we are, December 7th of 2025, over 2 months later, and now, finally now, they're starting to send in the cavalry to clear out the rat's nest, which I called for, again, 2 months earlier, maybe even earlier than that, but as far as I can see and document, it was October 1st. And the thing that's crazy about this is that, sadly, it took a scandal in the billions and billions of dollars of them bilking, pretending people are disabled, pretending that they have wheelchairs so they can charge CMS and Medicare fraud on top of that, overbilling by millions and millions and millions of dollars. Of course, the feeding our future bullshit scam, making people with fake diagnosis of autism when they don't have any. I mean, these people are animals. They are animals. They are third world animals. And they belong in the third world. They don't belong here. And it's just like I have been saying for the longest time. When immigrants came to this country in years past, it was, what can I do to make America better? What can I do to take maybe some of my customs and traditions and meld them in to the American fabric? How can we give back to the country that has given us so much? Right? That's how immigrants used to be. Not anymore. Now it's, what can we take? What can we extract? How can we bilk the taxpayers? How can we kill the Americans? How can we rape their women? Sorry, but it's the reality. That is the mentality of the majority of people that come to America in 2025. And that needs to end. So I am very glad that finally, even though it took a scandal, because again, as I've always said, Washington is never proactive, they're always reactive. And as I said, my sources pretty close to the administration were telling me that the Somalian section of Minnesota was going to be hit by ice in late February and early to mid-March. Well, things have changed because of Tampon Timmy and Ilhan and the rest of these cretins and all the scandals that are exploding. And by the way, this scandal is just starting. And it's not just Minnesota, okay? They are in other areas and other enclaves. Lewiston, Maine comes to mind. There was a Muslim that was literally running for president of Somalia, a place called Jubaland, believe it or not. And he was raising money here in the United States of America for a paramilitary force to raise money so that he could go back to Somalia and murder all of his political opponents and, quote, become president and a warlord of this whatever area. This is the mentality of these third world dwelling scum, okay? That's what they know. All they know is violence. They're not educated. Most of them are borderline, 80 IQ or less. They don't speak English. They haven't tried to assimilate. They don't want to assimilate. I mean, it's sick. Why are we doing this? We are killing ourselves. And this needs to stop. And hopefully, President Trump is going to get serious about it. So ICE has now launched armed raids. As I said, go in guns blazing. I said that. ICE has now launched armed raids across Minnesota targeting the illegal Somali swine and the illegal nationals in the area of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then it just says right here, the Minnesota Police Chief Brian O'Hara warned residents that masked individuals detaining people in Somali neighborhoods were kidnapping them. See, this is the problem, okay? And I love the police. I'm a big supporter of the police. I back the blue. But you've got these idiot left-wing radical extremist chiefs of police in these blue shithole cities that think just like the politicians. They don't care about the native people. They don't care if the regular people are being fleeced. They don't care if they're being raped and murdered and pillaged and stolen from and everything else. No. It's what's going on for the people that are going to keep us in power, with the money and the votes. That's what happened. See, they imported these people. Obama imported these people into this area of Minnesota. And they grew and they grew and they got bigger and bigger. And then they became a political firearm right there. And they have a locked and loaded gun at the head of every single Minnesota politician. Oh, you want to win the state of Minnesota? Well, then you have to kiss and grease the skids for Ungo Bongo Bingo Bango, or whatever the hell the idiot's name is, okay? And if you don't do it, we'll say that you're racist. See, they always use the race card. And these politicians are stupid. And so instead of standing up and saying, no, sorry, we're not going to do that, they go up in front of the camera and they eat Somali, whatever, I don't know what it was, probably crickets and rat rodents and who knows what else. And the guy's sitting there, Jacob Frey, we'll call him Jacob Gay, he's sitting there choking on the food. He's like, oh, yeah, this is great food. Yeah, sure. Then this idiot, Jacob Gay, gets up in front of the camera and he starts going, unga, boonga, dinga, boonga, dinga, banga, boonga, inga. He's trying to speak their language. I mean, the sellout is so ridiculous. And that's what Democrats do. They don't care. It's all about staying in power. They would slit their own mother's throat and drink her blood if they could stay in power just a little bit longer. That's their mentality. And they're no different than the third world because they don't mind bringing in the third world. As long as that third world stays in order and votes for them, then they're allowed to stay. The minute they change and they go, wait a minute, we're going to look at the other party, then all of a sudden then they care, right? This is their mentality. So anyway, so ICE is going in, and hopefully they're going to do a bang-up job, and they're going to go in there, and they're going to get rid of this rat's nest, because that's what it is. It is a rat's nest, okay? These are third world, filthy, disgusting people. Garbage, as President Trump clearly stated, although politically that might have been a bridge too far, but we'll see. The midterms are a long way away, and there's plenty more ads for us to run showing how radical they are as opposed to anything that we have said. Okay, that's number one. But number two, I've said this all along, and I'll say it right now. Forget New York, forget Los Angeles, forget Oregon, forget Washington State, even forget New Orleans for now. Concentrate in the 6 to 7 swing states. Remember, the blue states are going to vote the way the blue states vote. The red states are going to vote the way the red states vote. And then there's 6 or 7 left. And that's going to determine Congress, okay? Those 6 or 7 states. And be thankful that there's only 6 or 7, because years ago, there was probably 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of them, okay? Yet Florida was a swing state. Yet Ohio was a swing state. Yet Iowa was a swing state. So we have gotten rid of a lot of those swing states, but there's still 6 or 7, okay? And that is where the concentration should be. That's where ICE should be. Never mind Chicago. Stay right here in Arizona, in Georgia, in North Carolina, in New Hampshire, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and Wisconsin. And in this case, obviously, yes, I agree, Minnesota. Because if you can get rid of that rat's nest of people in there, you could win Minnesota. Minnesota could become a possible red state if you got rid of that rat's nest of 80,000 immigrants. Absolutely. So we'll see what happens. Just wanted to kind of brief everybody on that. The scandal is just beginning. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, so many things that we're hearing that they have done. As much as $8 billion. I'm hearing it could hit 10, 11, 12. There's 700 million missing in California. There's another scandal in Massachusetts. So I think what's going to happen here is, as this expands, you're going to see at least red states, right, that have blue cities. But red states are going to start looking into the blue cities, and the attorney generals and all that. They're going to start examining to see if there's fraud in those big cities as well. So, for instance, you may have a red state like Tennessee that might look into Memphis, right? You may have a red state, obviously, like Louisiana that may look into New Orleans, okay, so forth and so on. And so I think you're going to start to see these things expanding. Unfortunately, in my state of Arizona, I got a stolen government all around, so they're not going to investigate anything. Now, Andy Biggs wins the governorship, yes, whole new ball game, obviously, at that point. But we're not there yet. So, anyway, I called for this on October 1st. Here we are, December 7th, and finally it is happening. So I am very, very, very glad that this is happening right now. But again, as I said, it's sad that it took a scandal in the billions of dollars to get anyone to move and act. But that's Washington for you. They are never proactive. They're always reactive. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.